compliance deadlines, existing high-rise commercial or apartment buildings shall be in compliance with the ordinance no later than January 1st of 2025. So this is not something that will necessarily come online for everyone right away. All other buildings and structures not exempted under this ordinance shall be in compliance no later than October 1, 2022. And those dates come from the fire code language. Testing, inspections, and enforcement. The ordinance allows for an initial installation testing, annual testing, and 5-year verification testing. The city may inspect or cause to be inspected at city expense any radio coverage enhancement system installed pursuant to the ordinance. Violations of the ordinance may be enforced by various means, including but not limited to legal remedies, code enforcement proceedings, which will be the day-to-day enforcement of this code ordinance. Fines, withholding, or revocation of certificate of occupancy for the building or structure and reporting violations to the FCC. The City Commission, by resolution, can establish a fee schedule. Although at this time we don't anticipate additional fees for this. This would just be something that the, if it's a new building, a developer or builder would submit as part of the building plans. And ultimately, this is about protecting the lives of residents, visitors, workers, and first responders of our city. Similar ordinances have been implemented nationwide for decades, protecting the lives of countless people and ensuring reliable and effective public safety. I'm certainly no technical expert on this matter. We have Mr. Neal and Paul Jones. The city also contracts with a radio specialist and engineering specialist, two consulting, a gentleman named Dean Hart. So if anyone has any very specific technical questions about the ordinance, if you can't answer them, Mr. Hart, if I get those questions, I can make sure Mr. Hart answer those for you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Captain, for that presentation. Questions? Commissioner Schoaf.
Thank you, and thank you, Captain Clark, for the presentation. At face value, looking at this, it's a safety ordinance in essence. So it's about enhancing radio communication in buildings that have impenetrable materials, block buildings, etc., which is why wood frame buildings are exempt. And you mentioned at the beginning of your presentation that this would put us on the P25 system, which we're currently on a different system.
No, the city operates a P25 system.
Okay.
We operate a separate backup system, but it's just, the city currently has a P25 system. So the only thing that's related to that is our P25 signal is what we're trying to establish and utilize in this ordinance.
Okay, and so when we're trying to amplify the P25 system, buildings under this ordinance will have to install equipment. So how, from our perspective, do we manage that installation? You had mentioned we have a consultant on this side, but if I'm a regular building owner that I'm not technical either and I don't know anything about the P25 system, I just know that I'm required by the city of West Palm Beach to install this in my building. How do I go about that process?
So you might not necessarily have to install the system in there. It's only when it's identified that our signal cannot transmit and be received in there. So it not necessarily will every business owner have to be affected by this ordinance. And again, in our practice, and what I know about it, this will only affect a very small amount of buildings, again, that are more modern, larger buildings. I kind of know where you're going with this. There's so many variables involved in this, depending on the structure, the size, the scope of it. It could be something that as a simple fix with one BDA, one antenna, and you're talking about a few $1,000s, versus, again, if you look across our skyline, you see the buildings getting bigger and bigger. Those buildings, of course, if they did have issues, which we don't know if they would or not, those, of course, costs will go up. But I just want to emphasize, this, again, might be new to our city, but this will come as no shock to any builder or developer or anybody in this business. This is something that, quite honestly, is probably about 20 years overdue.
Sure, and I'll simplify a little bit, if I may. into, so we've hired a consultant on the city side, so is that consultant then analyzing the buildings in the city, and then those owners will be provided with an analysis saying, whatever portion, you would show in one picture where it depends on where the antenna is, et cetera, on what the reception is in the building, because certainly we want to be able to have first responders have communications if you're in stairwells, you don't really have basements, but, you know, any kind of closed structure.
Right, so if I understand your question, the onus is kind of on the developer or the builder to show compliance. And they do that through whatever means they want to, through a third-party vendor or contractor, and then they would show compliance. Let's say it's new construction, they would put it as part of their developmental plan for the building. They would show compliance when it comes time the building's done and they want to get the CO. They would show a certificate of compliance through whomever they contracted to do that service for us. If an issue comes up in the future where we respond to a building and we identify a problem, that's when our code and IT people can go in there and verify that problem.
Okay, so if I'm a new building developer, as part, just like I submit to the county for impact fees, just like I have regular applications through my building permit application, I would also have an application that says I'm in compliance with this ordinance, and I would have to hire a consultant that said I was in compliance with this ordinance.
That's correct.
Okay, on the second section of that, of existing buildings, how are existing buildings, how do I know if my existing building is in compliance with this ordinance?
So a lot of times you probably wouldn't, unless perhaps fire or rescue goes there and identifies a problem, makes them aware of it, and then they can take corrective action.
Okay,
But it all does still fall under, even though we have this ordinance, that language is also in the fire code as well. This just gives us some ability to enforce that.
sure. And I guess as I look at this being a safety ordinance, if we could look at that particular component of it, because if fire rescue is showing up at a building and then that's when it's discovered, it seems like that's probably past the point that we want to discover that there's lack of radio communication. I understand it's not a perfect science and it's a phase in, and we've got to start somewhere, but I think if we start to look at that portion of it, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Any cards? Anything in the floor? All right, then I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move approval of ordinance number 4973-21.
The move, is there a second?
Second.
The move is second. Discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, can you read the ordinance, please?
Ordinance number 4973-21, and also a city commission of the city of West Palm Beach, Florida, amend the code of ordinances of the city of West Palm Beach, Florida, in chapter 18, building and building regulations, to create article 8, public safety radio coverage, amended chapter 26, code enforcement, at sections 26-65 and 26-66, regarding enforcement provisions, provide for codification, provide for severability, provide for conflicts, provide for an effective date and for the purposes.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, now we move on to part of the issue, and I need your disclosures. So we'll start with Commissioner Lemmer. We'll go ahead and start.
Thank you. As to item 10.1, I have not had ex parte communications. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not been said nor have I received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record.
As to item 10.1, I have not had ex parte communications. I have not received written communication. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit, nor have I received any expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made a part of the record.
Thank you. Commissioner Shaw.
As to item 10.1, I have had ex parte communications with residents. I have not received written communications, not conducted an investigation, not made a site visit, nor received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record.
And Commissioner Moore.
Mayor, as to matter 10.1, I have not had ex parte communications. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit. I have not received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made a part of the record.
And I will make disclosures in the event I need to vote. As to item 10.1, I have not had ex parte communications. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit. I have not received any expert opinions. I request that these disclosures be made part of the record. Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, can you swear in any witnesses, please?
Everyone wishing to speak on item 10.1, please stand and raise your right hand. Swear the testimony that you give the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You may be seated.
Very good. Okay. Item 10.1, public hearing of resolution number 66-22, regarding a major amendment to the Marina commercial marine plan development to modify the design guidelines specifically relating to the required setbacks and maximum encroachment allowed within permissible building areas, or PBAs, number 1 and number 2, as well as amend the existing development order conditions pertaining to improvements on 40th Street. The above reference request has been made by Brian M. Seymour Esquire and Joshua Long, AICP of Gunster, on behalf of RD IMV Owner LLC. Mr. Long.
Good evening. For the record, Josh Long, Plan with the Gunster Law Firm. Here tonight for a major PD amendment. So real quickly, I think everybody's pretty familiar with this project. It's actually coming out of the ground right now. But you know, dating back about 8 years ago, we approved a master plan for what's called the Marina CMPD. And the first phase of this is being built on the north side. So our major PD amendment only deals with the towers that are coming up right now. In fact, it's a very limited scope major PD amendment. The little box that you just saw fly in. So what this amendment would do would allow us to simply build a drop-off for the tower. So people who are driving, their guests, can have a place outside the ring to drop them off. And the second thing it would do would be allow us to construct an open-air tiki hut along the ocean, or the intercoastal there for the beach club. That really is the summary of the entire amendment. We created a design guideline, which is a comprehensive book of standards 8 years ago. And unfortunately, I can't think of everything. And this is simply a couple little things that came up during the process and how the design guidelines was drafted. We did need to get a major key amendment for these two things. So here's how it would be represented in the design guidelines. As you can see, we made these changes so the following setback encroachments are very specific. They only allow that for the cachet and that thatch roof in those two areas that I identified before. This is the site plan. These are the areas that I just showed you that are highlighted in blue here. So those are the two areas where this affected area would take place. And that does really summarize the application. One other thing that this amendment would do is, as we were moving through the process, the Northborough Elementary School had asked us to look at one of the conditions of approval from our original development order to 2-lane 40th Street. So we had meetings with them and city staff, city traffic engineer, and at their request, at the school district's request, we decided to keep 40th Street one way. We provided additional traffic studies from Kinley Horn, the traffic engineer from the city reviewed it, and we're going to be making some improvements to 40th Street to help with the traffic circulation for the school and for the neighborhood. So that's just a typing change in the resolution that was presented for you. So that's it.
Very good. Thank you very much. Questions, comments? Commissioner Schultz?
Thank you.
For him, and then we'll go to you, Mr. Roach.
Just a comment, and it won't have anything to do with Mr. Roach's presentation either. I appreciate that you working with the school district and the improvement to 40th Street. Being that this is my last opportunity at this microphone to advocate for this. There is a piece of property along 40th Street, as we work with the school district, that was traditionally used as a dog park for the neighborhood. So commissioners here on the dais, the school district had kind of a nice agreement with the neighborhood that they allowed the neighbors to come in and use that dog park. And so there is a need from the neighborhood, as we're working along 40th Street and the school property there, to continue that conversation to perhaps open that back up. So that is my one comment.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Long? Mr. Roach, you want to present staff's presentation?
Yeah, good evening. For the record, John Roach, Principal Planner for the city. I'll be brief. Josh covered everything in terms of the details of the request, so I won't repeat over that. However, just a little bit more with regards to the 40th Street. It dates back to the approval in 2014. That was one of the conditions to try and alleviate the traffic off the Flyway Drive, provide an alternative route to get to the major thoroughfare, Broadway Avenue. So that's the reason that was put in there, but as he indicated, the school district had concerns with regards to that as they went to design the construction, so asked the applicant to reevaluate, which they did, and that recommendation came back to stay as a one-way. So just do want to emphasize that they will be making safety improvements that are directed towards the vehicular traffic, bus traffic, parent drop-off, and so forth, associated with that school travel. So this graphic that you see here has actually been incorporated into their development order, and they will have to complete all of those improvements prior to their issuance of the CO. So that's kind of an exchange for the work that they were going to do to convert it. They will then do these safety improvements in the vicinity of the school. So staff is recommending approval based upon compliance with the amendment standards, and the planning board did unanimously recommend approval at their February 15th meeting. So that completes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Very good, thank you. Any comments or questions for staff? Okay, hearing none. We do have one card. Ron Davis.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the commission.
Thanks for you speak. Did you stand up when they were swearing witnesses? Because we need to be sworn in.
No, I did not.
All right, would you be sworn in, please?
Raise your right hand, please. Swear testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I speak to you this afternoon simply as a part of the developers team. Related, my company, Moses Group, is part of that team has been working with related to the project since the beginning. I think the mayor was the only person on the dais at that time, back in 2014 or so. But nonetheless, I just wanted to support this amendment, and I think it improves the property and the project itself. And certainly, we look forward to your approval. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Anything in the board? All right. There's no further discussion. I'll entertain the motion.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 66-22, approving a major amendment to the Marina Commercial Marine Plan Development to modify the design guidelines specifically relating to the required setbacks and maximum encroachment allowed within permissible building area, PBAs, number 1 and number 2, as well as to amend the existing development order conditions pertaining to improvements on 40th Street. This motion is based upon the application submitted, the staff report, the factual testimony, the recommendation of the planning board, the findings of the request complies with the comprehensive plan, and the standards in section 94-32 of the city zoning and land development regulations.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, now we will turn to comments from the public. I have a few cards here. If I call out your name, you can start making your way toward the dais. TK, Mike T, Acura
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Tanya Pushachin, 441 32nd Street, on the board of the Old Northwood Neighborhood Association. We had a great social a couple of weeks ago. It was our first in-person social in about 3 years, right before COVID. So I just want to let you know that the folks in Northwood are getting back out to the community. We also have Kids Bay. The house is still open in Northwood. If you haven't been, I highly encourage you and those listening in the audience to come out to Northwood and visit the Kids Bay Show House. it's a great opportunity for the city and for Old Northwood. 2 points I wanted to raise today on some things that I've been working on in my personal and professional capacity. One's affordable housing. I recently heard a statistic, something along the lines of 20,000 homes, or we have a gap of about 20,000 homes in the county, homes that should have been built over the last 10 years but that weren't. I think that's part of the problem that we have today. So I encourage the city to have an all-of-the-above approach to tackling the affordable and workforce housing problem here in West Palm Beach. The second is cybersecurity. You know, the mayor, I spoke with you briefly about this. I have an email pending to your inbox to speak with our city CISO or CIO, if he or she is available. The Infrastructure and Investment Jobs Act that passed by the infrastructure bill last year included a $1 billion grant for state, local, municipal, tribal areas. I just received guidance on that a couple of weeks ago. The first tranche for about $200 million will become available at the end of this spring, beginning of this summer. So I'd encourage city staff and those in those departments to look at those granting opportunities to ensure our cybersecurity defenses and what we call our cyber hygiene is maintained and is up to date. I'm sure some of you may be listening and say, well, why would West Palm Beach need to invest in cybersecurity? Well, Riviera Beach paid a $600,000 ransom about a year ago to hackers from a ransomware attack. It took about 2 weeks for that city to get back online, and some of those systems are still not fully back online. The city of Oldsmar, Florida was attacked, the water utility, Oldsmar, Florida, not really a high priority target or anything, but there was an attempt to infiltrate the water utility and poison the drinking water supply in that city. Cybersecurity is a major threat. It is part of our national security, should be part of our local security as well. I just want to make you aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rest assured that our CIO, Mr. Jones, is very much on top of cybersecurity, but if you have any suggestions, he just left, but we'll put you in touch with him. Thank you. Mic T.
Yeah.
That's fine. Speak up to the mic, sir, please.
Awesome.
Say your name and address for the mic, for the record.
Thank you. My name is Mike Taylor. I go by The Armed Fisherman on YouTube. I just want to make sure you understand what I'm about to read. The First Amendment. Congress, not commissioners, shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. I am the press. Anybody you see with a camera is the press in America. There's no press credentials issued to any of us. We are the free press. I hear you have an ordinance against coming in here and recording inside your building. That's abridgment of the First Amendment. All right, we're going to get on to Smith v. Cummings. Kim, you're the city attorney? Awesome. You know Smith v. Cummings, right? Smith v. Cummings is the First Amendment right that was just endowed by us. We already had the right, but this court case just instilled that right for us. And it claims that, it tells us that we have the right to record police, public officials. If you work for the government, we have the right to record every one of you. Title 42, U.S. Code 1983, that's a lawsuit. When you start violating our rights, when you violate our rights, you get all of you get yourselves put on a 1983 lawsuit. You don't get the government's protection. Your protection is lost. Once you became a public official, you swore an oath. You put your hand up, our Bible or whatever, said, I swear to and affirm that I will respect the Constitution of the United States. If you don't understand the Constitution of the United States, you need to get up, pack yourself, and get out of here. Because we're not going to deal with it. You can see me just as I am, and they all had a problem with me being the way I should be able to come in here with a firearm. There should be no problem with me coming in here with a firearm. You all swore an oath to protect my rights. And for some reason, none of you understand the rights that you guys are violating on that front door as you walk in this place. Do you understand that? All right, Title 18, U.S. Code 241 and 242. Kim, you know this one too. Deprivation of rights. We're going to go through this one. Whoever, under the color of law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom willfully subjects any person in a state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district of the deprivation of any rights, privilege, or immunity secured by the protection of the Constitution. Do you not understand what the Constitution is? Do we not know what this is?
Thank you very much.
I don't
Time is
care.
up. Thank you very much, sir. Your time is up. Thank you very much.
Whatever,
Thank you very much.
Y'all can
Thank
kick
you
rocks.
very much, sir.
Shut up. You can kick. Don't tell me what to do, bro. I'm willfully leaving on my own.
Please.
I gotta do it myself. Shut up. Don't talk to me. Shut up. I'm getting
All right.
myself.
Acura, Amanda.
The longer it's gonna take me to get myself. See, this is what they've been waiting for. This is what he's been waiting for. All these officers have been waiting for this moment right now.
Acura, Amanda, if you please.
You're a tyrant, bro. I tried to be nice to you.
Can we begin?
Hello, everyone. My name is Acura Amanda. I live in West Palm Beach, Florida. And I'm here to bring awareness to the council and the public. Hold on, I'll wait till there's...
Your time is running, so you might as well talk.
Okay. So I wanted to bring to your awareness and the council and the public issues we are having in this local government. The first and most important is accountability in the West Palm Beach Police Department. The biggest issue I have is always obtaining public records. For example, I have made multiple public record requests for records such as text messages, photos on officers' phones. They're taking these photos and creating these public records while they're on duty. However, the city is claiming because the officer is using their private phone, the records are not a public record. That could not be any more further from the truth. Body cameras from officers are always coming up as no records exist because they are not uploading the footage at the very end of their shift or as per police policy. Finally, this city hall has just created a policy that contradicts our rights to the free press in America. This policy also violates Article 1, Section 4 of the Florida Constitution. Our city hall is meant to serve the community and is funded by our tax dollars, funded by we, the people. City Hall is also a public forum to the public, open to the public. Wherever the public is welcome, so is the press. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Call a few more names. Lynn Hubbard, Joyce Smith, and Rick Rose.
Good evening, Lynn. Good evening, Mayor James, President Lee, and
Hey.
Just let all your cronies know I'm going fishing right now, and I'll be carrying my AR.
What happened when you got out here?
You just walked me out and they were like, "Hey, I'm out here."
Oh, my speech was awesome. You killed it.
The fucked up thing is I didn't record 1 second of it.
I got it. I got it live on YouTube. Live on YouTube, baby.
As long as somebody's got it, I'm just gonna rip this shit.
All right,
Who wants
guys.
to go out and have fun?
I'm gonna go fishing.
Me. We're still live over here. Thank you all for joining us.
She does what she wants.
That was intense, guys. Thank you all for listening to what we had to say. Sorry about that. What's up, everyone? That was awesome, guys. So before we even entered the building, do you want to explain the issue and the controversy we had?
Look, we gotta go over here to the sign.
Okay.
I want to tell you about this sign right here.
Okay.
And right here, this right here is the law that they're quoting, that I can't bring anything in here, and it's firearms. While you're at a public meeting, if there's a meeting, a commissioner's meeting, you cannot bring a firearm into the meeting. But there's nothing limiting you from bringing your AR-15 mags. Every one of them's loaded.
Oh, he's still looking at his whole bag.
You know? But they had a big issue because they saw me the way I was without the mags, and I'm like, hey, I want to bring my mags in. And then they were like, well, and they did their little research. They called
Yeah,
what they got. and
he
they were
got
like,
somebody on the
they were
phone.
like, yeah, as long as it's not a
You know,
fire.
he's a lieutenant, right?
Yeah.
He's suing the city right now for discrimination. No, not HIPAA. That other lieutenant.
Yeah, yeah.
I seen in a news article. Can you zip this up for me?
And very well he should.
I don't lose my shit. Thank you.
Any one of these,
And they talk about
every
parking, we
one of
paid
these people on
$13
this
for
panel
2
up here
hours.
are a tyrant.
Really?
Yeah.
Where's
Why?
the sign that says no recording? Oh, there it is.
I think,
And
now
you can
that's
see
a policy,
that sign.
guys.
This is what we all came here for. That no audio, no video recording. That is against the First Amendment.
And they
It's
it is.
it is what is it? City ordinance or city policy
policy.
1-41.
And they did not respond to
This
us,
is-
the
this
mass
is-
audit we did after my arrest in Riviera Beach. Don't you remember we all came down here, we all walked in here? Actually, I think you left before them because you had your daughter with you.
Let me make sure my wallet's in here.
We took turns, we came in about.
Hold on, guys.
We were able to walk.
My bag feels too light.
Back a month later.
No, it's in here.
And that's
This
the,
is
and
why-
that's the only way, like, unfortunately, like, that's what we keep saying. You have to take them to court. They don't.
Oh,
care-
guys,
they
come
don't
on.
care about your
Let's
life.
go. All right, guys, I'm on their Wi-Fi, so I'm gonna end this. Acura, Amanda,
Justice, Liberty,
late,
Bye,
everyone.
guys.